So back to the story that I had started about the girl who I believe she was in China. Um, she lived in a hut with her parents, and they had no electricity, no running water. The school that she was going to, there was a $13 fee, and her parents basically they basically told her like, "Hey, you're going to be working in the rice paddies for the rest of your life anyway. Why should we waste this money on you?" And they pulled her out of school, and she was the top pupil in her class. After they pulled her out, she still made the 2 hour trek to her school and sat outside and tried to get information through the doors. I thought that was so sad that her parents didn't see the necessity of their child being able to go to school. Um, she gave this story as kind of an example of women being discriminated against, and she proceeded to talk about how um, in the last half century, more girls were discriminated to death than all people killed on the battlefield, on all battlefields in the 20th century. And that just kind of like blew my mind. That's not even something that I would have considered if someone asked me which one. I don't think I would have picked women as being discriminated to death. I didn't realize that it was that big, I guess. It's really eye-opening. Um, let's see. Oh, another thing she started talking about was how in Ethiopia there was a girl and she was in a feeding center, and this feeding center was full of girls. She was like 12 years old or something, maybe younger, maybe she was about 9. Um, she was in a feeding center. She she looked like she was totally starving. It was really sad. You could see all of her bones and everything, and she said that her brothers in the same family, they were totally fine. They weren't starving. Um, People in other countries, they don't see women as being important. They see them as being more of a burden, I think. Just really sad. So her overall message of women being the solution and not the problem, I really liked. Um, I guess like even women who are gonna have a baby, um, they'll abort the baby if they find out it's a girl. In some countries, and like she was talking about in India, uh, babies from birth to 1 were about the same, male or female, because they're both still breastfeeding, and there's like breastfeeding doesn't discriminate between girls and boys, but from 1 to 5, it's like 50% more of the girls were like starving, were dying. I think she said 50% more died than boys, which that is a little bit ridiculous. Um, she was saying that women are a resource, and that Bill Gates had said if you don't use half of your resources, you're never going to be the top 10 country, like one of the top 10 countries. You have to be able to utilize the people that you have, and to see them as a resource, see them as being important, as an opportunity to grow. Um, it's just so sad. In Ethiopia, there was a girl who was married at age 13. She was forced to be married. She got pregnant, and when she went to have her baby, um, she had a baby in like a bush, I think, but because she was so young, and her body was immature, she lost the baby. The baby died, and then she became incontinent, and she couldn't control um, her wastes, and basically she stank. and the village decided they thought that she was cursed, and they put her in a hut outside the village. Um, Basically, they took the door off, hoping that the hyenas would eat her at night. And she fought the hyenas off with a stick during the night. And because of complications during the birth, and some of her nerves being messed up, she couldn't walk. But she knew that if she could get to a foreign missionary, he'd be able to help her. So because she couldn't walk, she crawled 30 miles to this missionary's house. He knew what had happened. He got her to a doctor. They did a $350 procedure, fixed her up. They saw her importance. They saw her as being a smart person, and it actually made her a nurse. And she was able to help hundreds, maybe thousands of people, because they saw that in her. And I think that was the biggest thing that hit me in it, was as an example of women being the solution and not the problem. She became the solution. She saw something greater in herself than they saw in her. And at the end, she talked about, like, why does this matter for us? Why should we care? We have, as she put it, won the lottery of life. We live in a place where we have great fortune. We have the opportunity to do what it is that we want to do. And she basically said, with great fortune comes great responsibility. And once you have your needs met, there's very few things that can actually increase someone's happiness. And one of those things is giving back to a cause greater than yourself. And then she also said that individuals can make a difference. Like, when you come together and you can create a movement. So with that, we should remember that we can make a difference, and that we can do something, and we can help. We just have to make the decision to.